We are live. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Colin's Corner. I have my friend here, Ben from Books with Bengus Khan. And man, are we excited to talk about this penultimate book in the realm of the Elderlings. Ben, how you doing today?
Oh, doing good. I've been eager to chat about this ever since I finished it last week. So I'm excited. Also sad to be nearing the end of the journey. We've been on this buddy read journey for like over a year, I think. Like it's
Yeah,
been a long time. And it's been such a nice little touchstone for me. So we still got a little bit of ways to go. So it's not
we
over yet.
do. And I know we
But
kind of talked
yeah.
about maybe starting another series together after this, but we'll get through this one first. And
Yeah. There's
so
also the possibility that we skipped over Farseer in terms of our buddy read since we started with live ship.
that's
So we
true.
could always double back and come full circle and do Farseer. I do want to make use of my nice illustrated editions. I'm always I moved around my books now, so I have no clue where they are. Oh, they're up here.
While you're looking for that, let's say hi to some of our friends. Derry. Hi, Derry. Evie.
Matt, you're
Good
safe
morning,
for a little
everybody.
bit because we always start with non-spoilers for like 2 minutes before we get.
Of course, Chaudia. How you doing, Chaudia?
We will
Thank you guys for
definitely.
being here. Matt.
We will
Hi,
tell you when
Matt.
we get to spoilers. We will tell you.
Yeah, we'll make it pretty clear. Like I'll put a banner up and it'll say spoilers, and if I remember to do that. But Anthony, this is your first time getting to attend one of the chats live, and I'm very excited about that.
Oh, he's caught up to
Yeah,
us.
he's finally caught up to us, so that's exciting. Good morning, Matt, if it's morning where you are. Robert. All right, we got some friends in here.
Matt.
Motley? Motley was a
No.
surprise character that I enjoyed.
Yeah. Love the new characters we get along the way in the series. Non-spoiler thoughts. I was a bit worried after Fool's Assassin just utterly blew me away. I was like, is this going to be like the high point of this trilogy for me? Am I going to like the direction the whole arc of the trilogy is going? I hear so many conflicting things about this last trilogy. People love it to death. Some of their favorite of the series. Other people, some of their least favorite of the Fitz books or overall. And I was more gripped to this book than I think I was just from beginning to end. I could not put it down. More gripped to the page, more emotionally gripped and tense the whole time than I think I ever was in any of the books in the entire series so far. Like I just finished it. I don't know where it's ranking for me. I got to give it some time, give it some perspective. But I read this, I sped through it. I found it so engaging and compelling. I'm totally swept away with this last trilogy and the direction this series has taken, and I loved it. It's a perfect book, perfect middle book. Hobb is the queen, not only the queen of modern fantasy, but the queen of middle books in trilogies because she's just a wizard with like managing to make these transitional middle books so compelling in and of themselves, even if they're very slowly paced in terms of like new major narrative events happening and just setting big things up for the finales. So huge success with this one, and it was not a letdown after Fool's Assassin. So
I agree. I had Ben. This is also like now become a tradition of our read along. Ben flies through the book and then has to wait for me to finish. And I understand completely why you flew through this one. And once I got into it, I also flew through it. I could not put it down. And I think you're right about, Hob, because I think I told you, and I don't know if this is true. I think I told you when we were going through it, like it didn't feel like a middle book, or it didn't suffer from like the, middle book syndrome that some trilogies can have. But I don't know if it's that as much as I just don't mind at all following along Hobbs' day-to-day activities with Fitz, or in this case with B, because you're
Oh wait,
right, nothing.
just watch out for spoilers with
That's
this
true.
part.
Nothing narratively does really happen for a while, but I was still glued to the pages throughout, just buckkeep life or whatever was going on. And again, I think that's a testament to just how attached I am to this world and to this set of characters. That how long was this one? I was reading on my Kindle, so I don't actually know. 700-page
I mean,
book. For a
it's a
lot of
chunky
it,
one.
not too much happens, and then a lot happens again. So
Yeah. I will be curious. I mean, I'm assuming at this point, because we have a sense for the overarching plot of this particular trilogy. At this point, like I'm fully 100% in on everything.
yeah,
And so I'm assuming Assassin's Fate is just going to crush it and hit hard for me. But I am very curious to go back and see like other people's reactions to this thing and kind of why they end up liking the ending arc of this whole series like less. Maybe it's a little bit of just like losing momentum with it. If they didn't love Rainwild, then I think often if we fall out of love with a book or a series, that it just, if you keep going with it, then your whole experience of the later books is kind of biased by that kind of momentum that you had.
that
So
makes sense. Yeah,
I will be curious though, because I lost a little momentum in terms of like not loving the end of the Rainwild Chronicles with those last two books, and then got right back into it with Fool's Assassin. So maybe I think I'm curious to know other people's experiences, because these last two books, they've just been like 10 out of 10. I am just lost in them. It's so easy at this point. Like one of those great benefits of these long series, why I love reading long series, is the time that you spend with the author and the characters and the world in the certain POVs. And I've spent so many hours with Fitz and Hobbs writing. I've spent so long in this world, and it's so easy to just get immersed and to lose myself in the story and to really live it through, Fitz's eyes, and so it's so powerful. We've been on this journey for so long in our real lives, and I find no fault. I have one tiny nitpick that I'll get into in the spoilers that I took me out of the story for like literally 10 seconds, and then for the
okay.
rest of the 700 pages, I was in it.
I want to get
I
to
was not.
spoilers
Yeah.
here pretty
Yeah.
soon. I'm about to start the series at the beginning of 2025, so I'm going to have to revisit this. Yes, you can revisit. So what Ben and I did was we alternated turns hosting a live chat for each book, and we started after Farseer. So we started with the live ship traders if you continue on with the series. So you can jump back and forth between our channels if you want to follow along chronologically. Um, he had an interesting. He is not typically a fantasy reader. I'm doing a read along with him right now. We're going to have a discussion, but
Ah,
he actually read the first book in the Rainwild Chronicles first, because
well.
he'd heard of Robin Hobb as an author and saw it at a bookstore, and
Yeah.
he typically reads like crime thrillers and stuff, but he wanted to try some fantasy, and he liked it. He liked the first book.
That's a good sign.
So
That bodes well. That bodes very well.
it does. I can't believe there are
Yeah.
people. So, are there actually people that dislike this series, or they don't
Yeah.
like it as much?
It's pretty. it's not as rare as you might think for people to like loved Realm of the Elderlings like first few trilogies and then really not like the direction this last series took.
Fool's Quest is fantastic. I think I may like Fool's Assassin a tad more, but Fool's Quest as maybe my favorite chapter in the series. Anitha doesn't like it. Andrew and Nico hate it. Interesting. I didn't know it was that divisive. I mean, I could maybe see it not being somebody's favorite, but to hate it sounds.
Yeah. It's
all right. Well,
the storytelling and the character writing, like it hasn't seemingly like noticeably like shifted in it. Besides maybe one way that we could get into, but let's get into spoilers because I'm already scared that I'm gonna give stuff away.
Speaking of that, yes, we're gonna go into spoilers. So I'll give everybody a few seconds if you just stopped in to say hi and haven't read the series yet to bookmark this and come back later. I'd love to talk to Nico actually about why after we finish this. Anyone that has a differing opinion from me, I'd like to talk to them and just hear them out because, like you said, I don't see a large difference.
Yeah.
One
Seems
thing
like a natural continuation.
I wanted to pick kind of a random place maybe to start and just kind of get your thoughts about something because
go for it.
So you and I both have always really enjoyed the beginnings of chapters, the italicized text, and that kind of method of world building that Hobb uses. And for some reason, maybe it's possibly because this is the 15th book in the series that I've read. I was really, really interested in all of the chapter headings for this book because I felt like almost all of them either made sense or gave me a clue, a small clue for this world that I've still been missing. So they landed. Like some of the other ones have been super random and felt super random. And for this book, I loved the chapter openings, almost all of them.
Yeah, I just opened to one randomly, chapter 4, and it was Hap's A Song for Night Eyes and his friend. Like, come on. Like,
how amazing is that?
That's so good. But no, they're great. She's always been amazing. Like
Evie. I couldn't remember the word.
It was so fun in Rainwild to like get something different with those letters back and forth, but these, they usually hit pretty hard, and by this point we often know kind of what they're referring to or kind of know the author of them. I sometimes like to flip ahead and to see who wrote it before starting them.
Okay, I do too. So you know what's funny is in this book I can kind of tell the ones that Shade wrote. Like before I knew it was him, I was like, this feels like something Shade would write.
But there was like one that came from Jack. I'm like, I love those character crossovers from the different series. Like, oh no, it's fantastic. What a great little thing that Hobb's doing throughout. So yeah, I'm right with you. I'm right with you.
Just where do you want to start? Where do you want to start? I'm gonna toss it to you.
Let's start at the beginning because, like, man, after coming to love and adore B so much, we have this horrible ending of the last book where she gets captured away by these evil servants. And so from the beginning of this, where Fitz is at Buckkeep, like, he doesn't know. And we're in this position of this, like, Hobbs using this, like, age-old literary technique of dramatic irony to humongous effect here. It's like, we know that he should be scrambling to try to, like, rescue her right now, but he has no idea that he needs to do this. And so there's this throughout this whole section, but I mean, it gets ramped up once he finds out. Then he's experiencing this dread and horror every second. But even before he finds out that B got captured, and he's just like, okay, the fool's healing up. Like, he's having this kind of like reunion with the fool, other people around the castle. It's kind of like he's working his way back into court life a little bit, and it's kind of cozy for him, but it's not cozy for us because we know that he's about to like get his world rocked, and we're worried about B. And so, like, unlike in Fool's Errand or like Golden Fool, when these like slower, cozier beginnings are happening, where we can kind of settle in and we know later it's gonna like shit's gonna go down, but we could still relax into it. I couldn't like relax into this beginning because I was so worried for B and scared with what like was gonna happen for Fitz, like emotionally and mentally when he found out. And so like there was just this hugely charged beginning, and I was like, oh my god, I want Fitz to find out. But then as Fitz is like settling back into Buckkeep life, I'm like, oh no, actually this is, I'm like happy that he gets these days and moments to like settle in without knowing. Because and like I really just enjoyed this section for Fitz reestablishing himself back at Buckkeep, the Fool slowly healing up. We get to check back in with Chade and Thick and Kettrikin and Dutiful and Eliani, and like I love this section, and came to feel like, oh, I don't want Fitz to find out just yet, because he's having a kind of nice time getting established back in. What a crazy opening though, with that dramatic irony.
Yeah, and this kind of Matt says, love that point, Ben. Even when Fitz finally has this huge moment in the back of your head, you know B is taken and he doesn't. Generally, the frustration I had, says Evie, with Fool's Quest is Fitz's inaction. And this is kind of where I wanted to go, because we had an interesting differing opinion regarding what was going on. He said he finally learns to listen to others, but at the most inconvenient time, because we know as readers, B needs his action. Ben and I had kind of differing feelings about this because
yes.
So this is talking about
This is talking about before Fitz finds out even that B has been captured. Like Fitz feels guilty. Fitz is talking like with other people and or just forgetting his internal monologue, but he feels guilty that he went through the stones with the Fool to get the Fool healed, and he left B in the care of Fitzvigilant and Shine, and he feels guilty about that, and that comes up a bunch. And this was hilarious because Colin messaged me, and he was like, "Dude, Fitz really dropped the ball as a parent, like leaving B in the care of these like irresponsible people to go with the Fool back to Buckkeep." And I'm like, oh my god, that's exactly the opposite of how I felt. I'm like, it was unlucky what happened. Like he left B in the care of people, and she was going to go back home. He had no clue that the servants were going to come and like come looking for her, even though he maybe should have. But like in that moment, he just like almost killed the Fool. The only option he has for saving him is like taking him away to Buckkeep. I'm like, Fitz had to do what he had to do there. Like in that moment, I think he made a choice that made sense, and then I don't recriminate him from that choice. And so like I was reading the whole beginning with that idea, like, oh, he shouldn't beat himself up over it, because like he couldn't have predicted what happened with B getting captured. And he was like, in that moment, he like the Fool's problem was urgent, and he solved it and did what he had to do to like save his friend after almost killing him. So like I was like, oh, Fitz, stop beating yourself up over it. Like, and Colin had the exact opposite. Like he shouldn't have done it. He should be beating himself up over it. And so that was really interesting. Like that we had this total opposite feeling about that.
Well, I just remember like that whole time being, and like I was trying to, it was affecting my mental psyche so much that I was trying to justify it, right? Because this book, this series is written in like what I would assume to be like modeled after like medieval times, right? Like we don't have any modern technology. They're still navigating the world using like horses, unless you use a skill pillar. But I like, to me, like if you have a child, that is number one top priority, like inherently in most parents. And now, granted, like Fitz was raised a bit differently. Like he was raised without kind of immediate parents in the household, and he kind of did navigate the world by himself a lot. He had paternal and maternal figures, but they weren't constant. So I think in my head, I was like, I would never send my child like just by themselves with two people I don't know that well to a massive manor and be gone for like weeks at a time and not worry about that for a friend. When there's plenty of people that could have made sure that the fool stayed okay. And again, like I was just like, I mean, it's not that weird in this time for someone to have to travel away for weeks to work or something, but like Fitz had a choice here to go back and like make B his top priority. This is just kind of right after their relationship was mended and they were beginning to like blossom as this father-daughter.
Mhm.
Yeah, like Matt said, Lanton Fitz was already annoyed with these two people, like severely annoyed
Yeah,
with them, and he's just like, okay, here, take
yeah.
my child. I have to go save the fool. Imagine what
I mean,
B's thinking, like,
it
what?
makes sense hearing you, and it's just interesting to think about like why we might have had completely different reactions to it. So like, I don't have kids to take care of. Like, it's just me and my wife, and you have a young daughter like in B's situation. Like, so, I mean, not in the situation, but similar age ish, and so like I think that like I saw it from like a different perspective than you, and it was just interesting to see just opposite reactions to that. Looks like other
Do you
people
know
are
what?
with on this one.
Do you know what Derry's referencing here? Because I don't.
Just is it about why he went with the fool through the pillars, or was
I don't know. Are we supposed to know, Derry? Maybe you need to give us a more direct hint, even than this. Chaudy says I'm with Colin. And here's the thing: we know Fitz as a character, so like this was not the way that this was handled was not out of character for Fitz as we know him. Um, because he's a very frustrating character. He doesn't he always thinks that he's thinking logically, but he's almost always missing something very obvious, even though he's like one of the most perceptive people in this world. Yes, he's been, living comfortably in the womb of Withy Woods for some time now, and he's kind of lost his edge a little bit, but he still always thinks like an assassin, at least in the back of his head. He's still always armed with something, even if it's small knives, and he's always checking where exits are, and he's always I love those little details that Hobb puts in there, like the way that being trained as an assassin would affect the way that you think about the world. But he just
Oh, Colin. So this does not change my reasoning for my perspective, but it helps us understand maybe why we could be a little less tough on Fitz for the decision. It makes sense. It makes sense.
would this still be affecting him when he was that far away from Withy Woods though?
No, I mean, the Vindalire was in the town right there. B was like mentioning like, oh, there's a fogman here.
That's true. That's
He was
true.
right there in the town
Okay,
where they
good
all
point.
were. Oh, so that pretty much absolves Fitz then, because he wasn't even in the state of mind where he could consider everything. But yeah, even without me having remembered that, I was giving Fitz a pass because just like, man, what his someone he loves, he just basically killed him. This is like a life or death situation right now. And so I was like, yeah, not great to have left B with these irresponsible young adults, but
And
I
I
understood. I
don't
wasn't.
disagree
Yeah,
with that because I love the Fool
yeah.
too, and I think that the Fool did need help, but it didn't have to be Fitz. I think his guilt for almost killing him is what propelled that. I don't know.
Yeah,
We don't need to dwell too much on this. I
yeah,
just thought it was
yeah.
interesting that we had such
It was.
differing
It
opinions on
was.
this.
That was fun. That was fun at the beginning. What about him back at Buckkeep? Like, one of the other aspects that added dread to this whole situation, not only knowing that B was captured, but that the Fool is just in like such a brutally like debased state where
Yeah.
like we knew the Fool back when he was just so graceful and hadn't really experienced much physical pain, and now he's all this evidence of torture, and it's having all these like not only the physical effects, and he's blind, and like but the psychological effects, like he's so traumatized and paranoid, and it's like, man, Hobb wrote that for us, the reader, and Fitz to be in like maximum pain every time we're with like the Fool. We are just like, we can't escape how much he was tortured and traumatized. So like, man, so brutal in this section. And it's such a relief when he finally like takes the dragon blood and starts to really heal up physically, because like it was just hard. It was just hard to be with him, like when he was like on death's door. Man.
Yeah. This is also the dragon's blood is something I want to get to much later. Because I have a concern about that. But I agree with you. Like just seeing Fitz kind of the way that we get this intimate, first person perspective of Fitz, we kind of get to see through Fitz's eyes how badly the Fool is damaged. And we get these little moments where, Fitz is in the room and he's just kind of like watching the Fool navigate the room blindly, and Fitz realizing like, oh my god, he's been blind and hurt so long that he's like good at this now. That's super sad. And then like Fitz would have to announce that he was gonna touch him and make contact with him because it startled the Fool so much to be like touched by a human. It really just kind of like, without getting into details, gave us an idea of just how badly the Fool was abused and mutilated. And yeah, my heart also broke for the Fool. And this whole situation, I think, was needed for Fitz to take action, because the Fool, with when him and Fitz are back together at Buckkeep, it seems like a completely like immediate thing for him, before Fitz even knows that B is taken, that they need to go and kill these people. Like, and Fitz in this time, before he knows that B is taken, is just like, okay, I'll get to it, Fool. I can't do it right now. And the Fool is like, yes, but this is of immediate importance. I don't think you understand how bad these people are. Um, and then I felt even worse that it took what happened for Fitz to realize what the Fool had been trying to tell him for quite some time. Like, we can't wait on this. Like, this needs to happen now. So, I don't know. How'd you feel about that?
I mean, that was fascinating, just like how single-minded the Fool was about killing all the servants. And it did make sense from Fitz's POV that he would register that and not prioritize it. But then like it takes a while for the Fool to like kind of tell Fitz his whole story. Like we get it in the kind of bits, and when you finally hear like the extended tale of the Fool's journey back to the servants, and then the torture, like, and you get the whole feel for like how evil and cultish the whole servant situation is. Like, I think it registered for Fitz like that this would be a righteous cause to go do for the Fool. Um, what I didn't love was that it took. This was my nitpick, was that in their catching up, like they spent a lot of time together, and like in one of the sections, they had just started to talk about the day in the town when Fitz stabbed him, and like they were just about to figure out that the son who opened up the Fool's vision was B, and like at that moment, Hobb just like cut off their conversation, and I forget the exact reason why, but like I'm like, oh come on, they've just been talking, and at the exact
Yep.
moment they're about to figure out that was B, like Hobb stops it, and like she waits for that reveal for like much later, and that's like an important moment when they realize that like Fitz's daughter is the 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 white prophet that the fool had been holding in the town. Like that's a really important moment. And I just wish Hob did it a little bit differently, where like she didn't bring them to the exact moment in the conversation where they were about to get that reveal and then like stop it kind of arbitrarily. Like that's the nitpick that took me out of the narrative for a moment, but I forgave it pretty quickly and moved on.
Yeah. Matt says, I think one of the big complaints about this trilogy is how out of character it is for Fool to want that revenge so bad. I think that transition for him is totally justifiable. So I personally didn't feel this way because in my head, up until this time, the Fool has been a rather neutral character in terms of conflict in the series. He's not been front and center, at least publicly, for a lot of things. He was the court jester. He was Amber. Like he wasn't really in the middle of conflict. But when this stuff happened and he was so kind of dead set on getting revenge, even personally himself, I saw it as a kind of a result of the trauma that he went through. So that would make him out of character. Like he was so angry and scared and terrified all the time that he didn't even feel safe being alive anywhere unless these people were handled. Because he kept saying to Fitz, like, I don't even want to go out and like castle because I don't feel safe knowing that they could be there or someone from their camp could be there. But also like the Fool in many other situations is viewing the whole picture much more than Fitz ever is. And he in the Fool's whole thing is that these people need to be taken care of because they're actually kind of the big baddies of the whole series. Like they are trying to alter everything for their gain. It's not just like, someone trying to use the dragons for personal gain in a specific area of the world, or like, Bingtown and Chalcid's quarrel. This is like these guys are trying to change everything for just their benefit. So they're like the big baddies of the series, actually. So I think he's traumatized, and he's also really, really worried about the world because he knows what they are doing and not a lot of people do.
And what we come to learn about the servants is so chilling. Just like maybe originally their mission was to truly just like support the true white prophets, but then the power got to them, and just like the way that they use actual prophecies, but then just twist them in any way they want to further their own ends and create this like cult like structure of brainwashed followers. Like so chilling, and like
Yeah.
when we spent time with them like around B's POV, like we see that like the younger acolytes are just like victims in this cult and brainwashed, and man, it's so brutal. Like Hobbs doing incredible, chilling, horrific stuff with this plot line. But yeah, very understandable why the Fool, who's like brought up in that island, in that system, and like escaped it, but then still believed in it enough to like go back, and he wasn't like completely disillusioned by them and cynical. Like, and for everything, his whole existence to basically be shattered by the evil nature of the servants, for them to inflict so much pain, and for them to force him to give up like the like Fitz, or like he feels so guilty about that. I think that he feels like he led the servants to back to Fitz. Like, so the Fool is psychologically just in shambles here. So it's painful to see. I personally never felt like things were weird or out of character for anyone. It all felt organic to the story, and based on like who is set up. But Evie's right, like yeah, like seeing the Fool here, like it definitely, going back to the beginning of the series, like it'll recontextualize his character, and I feel like I'll get so much more out of seeing the Fool on the page in the Farseer trilogy now, just knowing the arc of like his whole life.
The servants and is seen in the rereads. We know that they knew about the animal plagues that are mentioned as part of Burrich's youth, the drought and flood happening inland during Farseer. So I was telling my one buddy who's not on booktube but is reading through this series. I'm like, I literally like the minute that I finish the last book in the series, I just want to restart it. Like,
Yeah, yeah. There's gonna be
um,
so much to catch. Um, man, but
so
like,
go
but
ahead.
all of this stuff is like pretty like dreadful that's going on. But in the meantime, like Fitz is having like an interesting kind of time, like falling back into court life, and like Hob comes up with these new characters that are just so endearing, like to spice up these these early like slower pace sections. It's like the introduction of Ash, this uh this mysterious young new like apprentice of Chade. Like what a great new character. There's a little mystery around Ash. Um, and Ash Spark, yeah. Motley, a new animal companion. Like I love the little backstory we get, like about Motley, and then like I came to care so much about Motley. Like I was so happy every time Motley
Yeah,
was on the page, and Perseverance
one of
coming back.
my,
Like
yeah,
I was so ready for that. I was so happy that Perseverance kind of like insinuated himself, like to leech on to Fitz, and like I'm going after B. I'm doing this. Um, so many great little side characters to like, so that it wasn't just sitting with like the fool's dreadful situation, or Fitz's worries. Like I loved the side character stuff going on here. It's like 1,000%. It kept these early proceedings like new and fun and interesting, um, alongside like the really like intense dread I was feeling for
yeah.
B.
And during this time where Fitz is Lord Felspar rather than Fitz, and he's kind of getting reacclimated. It's almost like he's rusty being in society in general, let alone being
Yeah.
like, well, at this point, I guess he's not like he's just on another of Shade's missions. Shade's like, we need information, we need
Yes.
go like create a character and talk to people, and he's just like, I don't even need like to tell you, just tell me what kind of character you create and what they're going to be. And like I was just like, this feels like the old days, if it's just
Yes,
creating
that
a
was so great. Like him going around talking to the people at the dinner party. Like I love that scene. Like
yeah.
great.
After all
I
these years, like they don't even need to make a plan. Chay's just like, we just need some information, I trust you to get it." And he does. He goes out and he
Yeah.
gets it.
Oh,
um
loved it. Um and but this does lead up. I want to chat about this for sure. This beginning section had this kind of climactic moment where he is unearthed as Chivalry Farseer. And like this is a moment the series has kind of been like dancing around or building up to for a long time. And when
yep.
it came, it like, wow, it was so impactful. Like to see Starling like coming through in the clutch with this amazing performance that was genuine and sincere. And like for all these people to find out the true heroism of Fitz, and for him to still be so worried he's going to be torn apart by the mob, and like he's skilling to people in the room, and like he's freaking out, Shade's freaking out, like Eliania is just like licking her chops like we're doing this. And like what a great scene. This was just one of these fantastic moments that has been building for thousands of pages, that you felt really just great for Fitz, I think, and happy for him that he wouldn't have to be in the shadows, and people could know what he's been up to, and that he saved their skins a lot. And man, it was great. I love that whole sequence.
I thought it was perfect. I don't know if this is the chapter that Matt was referencing earlier when he said it has one of, if not his favorite chapters in the series. I was reading this with like just the happiest tears in my eyes, like watching Fitz finally get the recognition and the respect that he is due. It felt like again, like I think Fitz always underestimates just how much importance he holds to the people that care about him. And he still like is very prone to just like wanting to isolate and be alone and do his own thing. And like this felt like finally everybody being like, after all these years of treading lightly around Fitz and trying to not push him too far away, they all finally kind of colluded to just be like, nope, this is it. This is the moment. Like, you can't deny it anymore. Like, you deserve this. And before anything happens, like, you're going to get it. And um, I think, like, we see how uncomfortable Fitz is with this entire thing because he never has viewed himself as being as important as he is to the crown. Um, but really, in reality, like he is. He's changed so much of the world and made so much of the alliances that they now have a possibility, and fought for his king and queen in the shadows, and just not ever been given any of the public respect. But yeah, this was just a totally just it felt like everything in this scene was happening in slow motion for me. Like looking over at Shade, coming over to Fitz, and Fitz realizing what was actually about to happen and not being able to stop it. So yeah, I agree. Um, this is the most
All
painfully
right,
joyful sobbing I've ever done.
I'm looking at the line. I think Matt almost got it. I think Dutiful said, "Never is over," he proclaimed to the crowd.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
what
never
what
is
a
over.
what a line. Anthony says, I wasn't pleased that Shade blew his cover. It was great to see him finally get his recognition, but I cringe knowing that this is the end of Fitz's shady but free tendencies. Fitz is depression. Um,
Yeah, Derry's right.
they
Like,
they
yeah,
they are kind of stealing Fitz's autonomy to like be the out of court life person that he is. I can see where you're coming from, Anthony, but I think that maybe just through a combination of so many things that have happened to Fitz recently, like obviously like losing Molly and things like that, like they felt like maybe he needed this. And Fitz is not young anymore. So I feel like, maybe they all kind of felt like, well, this has to happen before he dies. Like he's not allowed to die without getting this moment.
I love how Starling was just so prepared to like with the song and with the big harp thing that she was
Oh
using.
yeah.
Uh, she'd been waiting her whole life for this moment. Um,
Starling was a character you weren't very keen on, right? Like you didn't love
no,
Starling.
yeah.
How do you feel about her
Really,
now?
I'm pleased with like just seemingly like maturity and growth, uh, and she did a great thing for Fitz here. But with a bit of like self-interest and vanity involved of like wanting to be the bard, the singer that delivered this famous song and story.
Starling in that chapter is Ron Burgundy with the flute. I'm so unprepared. Oh man. Okay, well, so after this is kind of when things start to, I mean, hit the fan. Um, surprising Fitz with it is the only way it could have gone. There's no way he'd have allowed this. Yeah, he wouldn't. He would have died and never
Yeah,
chosen willingly to never have this moment. And I don't even think that he would have been disappointed by not having this moment because he wasn't even particularly happy that it happened after it happened. I think in the moment he was kind of relishing in it, but like, we kind of see his irritation as the guise has been broken. Like he can't go anywhere now anymore without being viewed as Prince, Fitz Chivalry Farseer, which is like he doesn't like that. He likes to operate in the shadows. Um, and then
one
there's
thing
a
I was
whole
mad
nother
at.
fold. Go ahead.
Oh yeah. Wait, go for it.
Well, I was gonna say there's another massive fold in this because then like this entire new mission has to happen, but like because he's Prince Fitzgerald Farseer now, people can't know. Like the people can't know what happened because it would be pandemonium if people knew that the prince's daughter was stolen.
Yeah, on their territory, like, and they find out that, you know, Chalcedeans are involved, and so like it's this big political thing now. And just one quick character thing that happened that I was glad that Fitz and Ketrican had a really kind of intimate scene together where he kind of comforted her, like they slept next to each other, and like Fitz didn't think she knew that he was the like one that, you know, helped Father Dutiful, but like she lets him know like, oh, I know, and it's okay. It's like, so that was cool that just like they had a real genuine moment to like comfort each other and reconnect. And
Was it also like in this moment that Fitz just realized that Ketrican was witted?
oh,
Or
maybe.
am I making that up? I feel like Fitz just realized, or Ketrican was just like, yeah, I'm witted. That's why Night Eyes and I were so close. And it like blew Fitz's mind. I might be making that up, but I'm pretty sure that that happened.
I can't remember when we learned that from Fitz. Yeah, Matt's right. They're all the scenes with Fitz and Ketchikan 10 out of 10. Like she's such an endearing character on the page. Like I just have this sense of this great force of her strong character every time she shows up. It's like what Hobbs able to do with some of these side characters, just making them, their presence is so powerful. It's amazing.
He knew back in Royal Assassin, but he never thought about it. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, speaking of Ketrican, like she's not even got like a formal title anymore. At Buckkeep, like there's a queen, like there's a king and a queen now, but she is still held in that high of a regard in the castle. Um, it almost feels like to a higher level than Patience was, because Patience was always kind of viewed as a little bit eccentric and not like the people. But yeah, even without Ketrican really having a formal place in court anymore, people still view her that way.
I can't remember exactly when or how they find out that B was captured, but what happens when they find out? Does Fitz immediately go right back to Withy Woods and they walk through the house and see what's going on? Is that what happens when he finds out?
I
I think
think
so.
I think that he does just about like as quickly as you can, like get ready and go back to Withy Woods. Um, I forget what was happening. I think weren't they just wasn't Fitz was it Fitz or Nettle that was trying to skill back to
Oh,
their like
they
they
sent
sent
someone.
Shade's
Yeah,
guy
yeah, and
or
he
maybe
could
it was
barely get
Nettles.
it.
I can't
Yeah, yeah,
remember.
he could barely get a message through the, like the fog situation, and then
Oh, this is what happened. They were like having just like a conversation, like a little,
yeah.
powwow. And I think Shade was just like, yeah, it's been weird. I haven't had any correspondence with Withy Woods. And Fitz was just like, what do you mean? Like, you haven't had any correspondence with Withy Woods? Um, I think Fitz sends one of his skill kits. Okay.
And at some point we
Yeah.
learned that Fitzvigilant and Shun were Chade's kids. That was like
Yeah.
how did we not figure that out before? But
I
like
didn't know.
why was he, yeah, I didn't figure that out before, but then it's like Chade's feeling horrible about what happened for like his kids, and then we find out like I thought Fitzvigilant had died at the end of Fool's Assassin, so I was at least happy for Chade and kind of just, you know, that he was still going. Um, and then like we get more of their like backstory in this, and it did a lot to like humanize those two, especially Shen. Like we get a lot of her
Yeah.
backstory, and Shine, and Oh, land is equals lantern. Ah, okay, that makes sense. But man, like once Fitz finds out that B has been stolen and like taken away, like then we're like off to the races. But it's so frustrating for Fitz because he just wants to go and act and get B, but like logically they need like to a plan that's like and to know what they should do. And so like this next section is pretty brutal, like before he can really act on it. I think this is where he trains up his own guard. Like that was a whole cool little subplot where like he puts this old soldier that he fought next to in like the Farseer trilogy in charge of his personal guard. And like, oh yeah, this was a cool section where like he was at Withywood's with this company of soldiers that turns on him, and like they thought he and Shade were just gonna be like easy pickings to like kill for money, but they took care of that. And that was like a really tense, like, cause you knew probably something like that was gonna happen, but that was intense. And then like he turns the rest of that company into his personal guard. Just like so many little moments or side plots in here that all worked to like be compelling or add to the tension.
Yeah. I think, first of all, sorry if you guys can hear dogs because my neighbor's dogs are out. I wish I could control that, but I can't, unfortunately. Um, we get this horrible like section where Fitz and Shade have to use the elf bark tea to kind of bring the people
Yeah.
of Withywood's back
Oh,
from
right. That was a
their.
pretty big section. Yeah.
Yeah, Fitz was
Oh,
really unhappy about having to do
oh,
this, but
yeah.
are you looking at Darius' comment?
No, the one with the horrors they have to release back. Yeah, because there was like they were given that mental block to not know what
Yeah.
happened that day, and like
Yes. So I mean, Fitz and Shade, like I mean, they have to, and then this is where like Perseverance becomes a huge character because
oh
he's
yeah, yeah,
he's running he's just running around the town this whole time and nobody knows him. They think he's a beggar boy. Like his mom doesn't even know him.
yeah. That's
Um,
brutal. Yeah, like they think he's this crazy kid, and it's like
yeah, the
just such
poor
a relief
servant girl.
when Fitz comes back and recognizes him. He's like just so genuinely happy that someone knows who he is and that he's
Yeah,
not crazy. Like, oh my god, Hob just is brutal. Like she leans into like the darker aspects. Like we did not get those papered over with the events that happened. It's like all the horrific psychological impacts of these events and the implications are on the page and thought through by Hob.
yeah, and then they bring Perseverance's mom, back uh and they even ask him, they're like, listen, are you okay with us giving her elf bark tea to remember this stuff? Like, because it's gonna not be pretty. He's like, yes, we need to figure out what happened to Lady B. And um, Darius says, have you both connected the Chalcidian to the Rain Wilds?
I did not until they made it like very clear that he was like the like chancellor or like the assistant to the duke. Like once they made that clear, but I didn't catch it before because it had been a little while since I've read the Rain
Yeah,
Wilds.
I think a reread of the series is going to be incredible for little things like this. But
Yeah.
anyways, this kind of starts the main plot of the story, finally. So, we're spending all this time kind of just, it's not that, minor events are happening. There are obviously major events with the Fool being tortured and chased. And, we know that B has been taken, but we finally see Fitz after all this time get into gear. Um, and then he has to be throttled, of course, by the royal court because they don't want him just going off and going berserk because he's not Tom Badgerlock anymore. He's not Lord Felspar anymore. He is Prince Fitzchivalry Farseer, and nobody knows that he has a daughter, and nobody knows that a royal prince's daughter has been taken. So they
But
don't
also
want just
with
craziness to
this
happen.
with this like fog skill power that the servants have, they know that it's not going to be like simple tracking them down. So they come up with this great plan, though, of like putting the word out to the witted ones to like,
Oh yeah,
especially the ones with the birds, like keep an eye out for groups or strange things. Like that's how they end up, I think, actually tracking them down. So like realistically, Fitz couldn't go off and do anything to help B until they figured they had more information and developed a plan. And also like the idea of Fitz, he eventually does just go once he knows like a place to go to. He does just like leave without his soldiers, and like they follow, but he was not going to be successfully attacking that camp of Chalcedeans and servants. Like he was impetuous to try to do that on his own. Like he was just so needing to take action, and that, you know, he tried to leave everyone behind. But like he ended up getting very lucky that like the Chalcedean and the servants camp like deteriorated before he actually tried to rescue B. So he lucked out there. But
yeah,
this was brutal section. Like once he knew, then he has just like the dread of B being in trouble and of him beating himself up over the guilt of it. Like psychologically, it's just so intense being with Fitz in this section. And it was brutal, like, but in such a compelling, engaging way. And I've just like felt so much for Fitz here and wanting him to rescue B. And then on top of it, like I love B so much that, you know, I'm worried for her, but then we get to spend time in her POV. Like thankfully, I love that Hobb did give us like steady drifts from B's POV, so we could see like that, you know, she and Shine are actually like taking care of each other. They're trying to outsmart, you know, their captors, and they're like not having the worst time as captives. Like, so like luckily, at least for us, we see that like they're doing okay for themselves in the situation, probably hopefully long enough for like Fitz to come and rescue them. And so like I love getting B's POVs like from, and like we're getting insight into the servants and like Vindelier, and like it seems like that's their kind of like a similar type of character to Thick, just like on the servants side, and they're like taking advantage of him. And the Chalcedeans
like he doesn't
are able to
realize
manipulate him.
how powerful he is.
Yeah.
But they do. Yeah, this is so the moment that you were talking about earlier, where we kind of get that like where they're about to figure out that it was, you know, that it was B, and then Hobb changes the subject. This made me even more mad, because I didn't see it coming, because I was so caught up in the narrative that they finally get there.
Yes.
They finally find the scene of where, you know, this happens, and they go through the pillar, and then Fitz can't go. I was so mad for him.
Also,
when he touches,
I get so frustrated with Fitz's denseness sometimes, or his inability to like be more of like a flexible, abstract thinker. It's like, but it's not a fault I find in the writing or the series. Like it feels organic to Fitz's character. So like one of the things is him not being able to figure out that like B was a special baby, and like there's something supernatural going on with B, and with everything you know about the Fool, like you didn't make any possible connections. And so like when the Fool immediately says like, oh, that's our daughter, like, and the Fitz immediately gets defensive, like, what are you saying? Like, are you saying Molly was unfaithful? Like Fitz takes so long to come around to the idea that like something weirdly supernatural might have been going on between him and the Fool's connection and B. And then he assumes that B is like actually dead and lost once like they can't find her out of the skill pillar. It's like them just like everyone. I guess this is a little frustrating for me. because like everyone was like, we're having the funeral, we're like B is dead and gone. And meanwhile, they've known stories of people getting lost in the skill pillars for a long time. So and coming out. And so that was like a little frustrating that like they were just like at that moment, Fitz has to like come to grips with like B's death. Like that seemed maybe a little much for me. Like
This also made me furious, Derry, because I knew that the glove was the fool's fingertips, and I was like, "Oh my god,
ooh.
this is horrible."
Yeah, I didn't figure that out until a little bit later. That was horrifying when I did find that out.
I was so mad at
Yeah,
her.
he himself has been pillar lost before, so like, just
Yeah,
hold
I
out
think I
some
mean like,
hope that that is the situation.
well, again, like I don't know if Hobb is trying to play on this, or I don't know. It manifests strangely because I obviously Fitz is not thinking 100% logically. Like most of the time, as an assassin, you are not told anything particularly important about the people that you might be trying to handle or kill. Like you don't have any personal connection to them, so you're able to view this as just a job. But when it's your child, you're not thinking logically. He's going through these phases of like complete anger or complete grief or complete depression or complete like just I mean like lethargy, like it's all hopeless, and then like he'll have another round of being like super aggravated and like I think it's like emotionally just turmoil for him because he doesn't I mean he knows now like they're slowly trying to learn more over the course of this time that Fitz is in Withy Woods, and we see all these little excerpts from Chade like about the dangers of using the pillar too often. And like Derry says, they don't know how powerful B is. So like Fitz is probably just thinking, you know, she can't handle this. Um, if she is in there and didn't come out the other side, she doesn't have the wherewithal to realize that she needs to remember herself and try to not get lost in the skill river. And but this is another thing Fitz doesn't know is that she has Wolf Father giving her
Derry,
guidance this
so
whole
good,
time.
so good. This is like the best thing ever. The the fact that Night Eyes is there watching out for her, and like Fitz comes across mention of Wolffather in her journal, and is like, "Could that be Night Eyes?" But then he's like, "No, no, it can't be."
No way. Just
But
no way. My daughter just made connection with another random wolf in the world. Like that's totally normal.
yeah, this is so great. It is the best thing literally ever, and I love it. I love it. I'm so happy every time we have mention of Wolffather by in B's POV. It is literally the best. Um, and he's
So
just watching out. Just watching out. Oh, so we could talk about skill pillars for a bit. We get amazing lore drops in
yes,
this book, like about like the setup of the skill pillars and the like what it took to build them. It's like the people in the ancient days who built this, like each person who worked on carving one, like they knew they were giving up like their whole future like lives of being like fully themselves, and like they were taken care of by the communities. And like I don't know, we get little drips of the lore around it, so we don't have a full picture yet. I wonder
yeah.
if in the next book like all of the lore around it like becomes clear, because we got a lot here, but I still don't have a clear picture of what the skill pillars are. Who is the entity inside that's like communicating with Fitz,
Yeah.
like when he's getting lost in them? Um, there's still a lot of mystery around it, but it was cool to get little extra bits of the lore this time.
This is interesting. Fitz is so used to not hoping for and or having something good that he doesn't see things right in front of him, especially after how content he was with Molly and then loses her. So I think you're right, Evie. I think, this is kind of part of Fitz's emotional um struggles of the recent years. Like he tried for so long to like isolate himself, which is not the right way to live, but he deprived himself of like love and personal relationships and getting too attached to people, partly because he was an assassin and it wasn't great for him to be close to people. But when he finally gives in, and he does have a lot of like wonderful years as a family, and then that all gets taken away from him, and he kind of reverts back to that. See, this is why I don't get close to people. This is why I don't,
Yeah, he
because I
doesn't want
can't handle
another.
the
He doesn't
loss.
want. He doesn't want another wit companion. Like, what a great little
Yeah,
side story of like him and the horse in this one, where he's like he's withholding the wit bond, but he still is like communicating with the horse, and they're forming like a little bit of a bond, but he holds himself back. It's
yeah.
like oh, that was I loved that he was getting close to that horse there, and but like it ended up working out how he kind of let the horse find someone that was going to be a better wit companion. Um, oh, I am Fleeter. Like, oh, the stuff from the horse's POV here
Yeah.
was amazing. Like the communication from the horse, like so willing to back up Fitz and like push their capacity to like help. I love that. And it was so touching with Fitz in this section when he thinks B is dead, and he took like a few of Molly's candles and like the journal,
Oh
and
my
he has
gosh.
like these few possessions that are his like last bits of connection to Molly and B, and like when he gets so upset like when he thinks they're lost or like uh and
Oh,
I
that
was so
stupid
happy. Yeah,
bear.
yeah, yeah.
Oh
Oh
my
god,
gosh.
the bear, no.
Fitz was like the only person in that whole group thinking logically about the whole situation, and then it all goes out the window when he's about to lose some candles. And Lant is
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
dude, you can't go down there. That's a bear. Like, like you just told us we have to be up here. Like, you can't go down there now.
Props to Hob for
Um,
making like a hungry bear like a legitimate threat, and like actually making that like a dangerous, scary
yeah,
situation for the characters. Like
there was a lot of tension in
that.
that moment.
Yeah.
So she plays a lot with this notion of she's very upfront about the dangers of overuse of the skill pillars, and she has
Mhm.
been over the last 3 or 4 books. And then in this book, it's just a bunch of excessive use of the skill pillars. So I
Yeah.
thought that was a really interesting plot. I mean, it was, and in almost every situation, it was life or death. It was a life or death choice. Um, Multiple life or death choices, because it was a life or death choice to use the skill pillar multiple times within like a certain amount of time, but it was also like life or death situation when a bear is staring at you. And Fitz is really worried because they don't, like you were saying, fully understand how this stuff works. They just know that it's dangerous to use them excessively because it draws a lot of your power, especially if you're pulling somebody with you that isn't skilled. It affects them.
Of
And
course, like one of the most valuable pieces of lore, like the lore document that we only have a fragment of, was like burned by the horrible like false white prophet in Fool's Fate.
oh,
Um,
yeah.
so we have like a little fragment of it, and it was like, wow, we had just enough to know that this was going to tell us everything about the skill pillars. Hob was particularly cruel with that one. And like stuff like we get that you can carry multiple people through, but like it's like dependent on like how strong like you're the person that's going through first, like how strong their sense of self is. Like I feel like she's gonna start tying all these lore and magic things together, maybe in the last book, with like dragons and the skill magic that we know, and just the skill currents and all that. Like I feel like she's gonna do some tying up all of that in the last book. Um,
I agree. Derry kind of is going to transition us into the next part of the book that I wanted to talk about, which is
ooh,
Kelsingra. So consider what the overuse does to Fitz's school walls and how that affects the events in Kelsingra when they get there. I loved their entrance
Yes.
into Kelsingra, because Fitz was super, like there was this extreme trepidation of from Fitz where he's like, what are we doing? Like he thinks that he is, has to tread very lightly because he randomly shows up. They're gonna think that they're enemies. He knows how delicate the situation is because they're just kind of trying to bond the Six Duchies with Kelsingra, which is this newer city in the world, this newer entity. And Fitz is like, I don't want to mess up any relations that Prince Dutiful has been working on. Like, we need to. And then there's the Fool who just like Fitz doesn't know. The Fool knows these people, and like
Yeah.
Fitz just gets to see the Fool as Amber. So I loved this whole, like, Fitz is being super careful, and the Fool's just like, oh yeah, these are my homies. Like, they know me.
The skill
Um,
wall thing with Fitz was really interesting. Like he was having trouble the whole book, kind of putting his skill walls in place, and like Dutiful and Nettle were always commenting on like his leaking of his emotions and thoughts. Like there was even a really beautiful moment around like Fitz like letting Nettle know like how much he cared about her, and like,
yes,
or like when he said thank you really like intensely to like, I forget who was there with him, but like everyone felt the strength of like Fitz's emotions, and like it was really cool to see Fitz being allowed to have his skill walls down, so like the other characters could get more of that genuine sense of him and his emotions and figure out their relationship, because they've only been viewing Fitz like from the outside with his skill walls up usually. But what was Derry talking about here with like how that affects the events in Kelsingra?
well, because he's so open from the skill, he's like unintentionally healing people and
Oh, oh,
solidifying, he's like
yes.
strengthening the relationship between the Six Duchies and Kelsingra now, because they view, like, these people of Kelsingra now view
Oh,
him as like the savior of people who are tainted by dragons, like starting to change their people and then just kind of giving up or not being concerned with it anymore, and then leaving these people just decimated with physical pain. And um Fitz, like, accidentally saves Ephron, um or heals him because he's
yeah.
so open. So I think
Yeah,
that's what
yeah.
Derry was talking about.
That was great. If we go back though, like Evie and Derry both talked about like that scene with Nettle. Like also there was a scene where like Riddle thought he was gonna have like this huge fight with Fitz when he said that he and Nettle were gonna be getting married, but then Fitz was like, he ended up having a nice kind of fatherly moment with Riddle where he was like, you know what, I respect you, and you're a great good person, um and like I loved a lot of the quieter family moments in here. They were good. They were heartening, and it's nice to see
Yeah,
characters like not just in conflict with each other. It's like so common in modern fantasy to just like for there to be just always just like interpersonal character conflict with everyone. But um, yeah, like to see characters like coming to new understandings of each other. Yeah, that was really really impactful. I'm right with you with that scene with Nettle. Like all the stuff in the series with like Fitz and like his kids has been so intense. Like Nettle,
yeah,
like one of my favorite scenes in the entire series was Fitz getting to meet Nettle in person for the first time, like in Fool's Fate. Like Hobb has just delivered an unbelievable impact with Fitz and his two daughters. Um, yeah, Riddle
yeah.
was great in this. Yeah,
The tragic heartbreak when Fitz tells Riddle to do what Fitz didn't, stay for his baby. Yeah.
but then Riddle didn't, right? Like Riddle ended up following along, um, and
Yeah. I
and
mean,
he ended up
multiple.
having to and he ended up having to drug Riddle and
Oh
Lance
yeah,
and Perseverance, and to make them angry. Like that's a classic Fitz moment. Like
so
I was
funny.
like, you shouldn't do this. You shouldn't do this. But like, this is so you, Fitz. This is so you. Um,
he was so mad at all of them. Like I can like I can just picture him being like, as each person like, comes in his journey, that he was like, he like had resolved to go do this. Like he's like, I don't care what anybody says, I'm going to do this by myself. I know what I need to do by myself. And all of a sudden he's got like what, 5 people with him that he doesn't want to have to deal with at all.
Yeah, yeah.
He's just like, go get wood, build a fire, like
And
leave me
then
alone. You're not supposed to be
and
here.
then when Fitz finds the camp and starts like torturing the Chalcedeans,
Oh
it's like
yeah.
a moment like I was pretty like heartily just like on board with what Fitz was doing and being so brutal. And like it's almost like that, like the Taken kind of story with Liam Neeson movies where like he's going after his captured daughter. It's like you're just in this mode where you need to do whatever you need to do to get your daughter back. And it's like Fitz like, do what you need to do to get this information and get back at these evil, horrible people. But it was also nice that Riddle and Lance was finding his courage, and Perseverance is so like persistent with trying to help V live up to his name. And Riddle was coming along too. Like I liked that they were so persistent, all of them, in being there for Fitz too, because he does need help. He can't do this on his own. And then when he attacks the Chalcedeans, yeah. Oh, the shock and horror of what Fitz is capable of. Yeah.
Yeah. And this
Interesting.
is, in Fitz's defense, this is one of the only things that he's ever thought logically about over the course of his life. Like, he realizes that what he does is really not normal and like would be terrifying to a normal citizen. So he has tried to hide his skills as an assassin from the people that he cares about, because he knows that inevitably they would think of him differently if they knew or saw what he did. But I think that it ended up being that people respected him a lot more because they realized, like, oh, all of these like legends are probably true. Like, this dude is a badass. Yeah,
Yeah.
even in his 60s. I love Perseverance just dragging B's horse around. Like,
Yes.
his like is childlike, almost just unrealistic belief that they're going to find her. He just keeps saying,
Yeah.
well, Lady B's gonna want her horse whenever
Fitz is
we
so
get her
mean to him
back.
at one point, like saying that like she's dead. Stop doing this. Fitz was wrong in that moment and not nice, but
Yeah.
understandable. He's in a bad mental place right now, and he's like coming into conflict with the Fool in this section too, because the Fool's like, I'm coming with you. I need to go on this quest with you, and Fitz is like no, like sure, whatever. Meanwhile, like we know the Fool is gonna find a way. Well, just
Oh
like he
yeah.
found a way to get to like Asloviel or like, and that was like I loved when we see like the Fool like showing up through the skill pillars. Wait, who's with him? Ash? Oh, Ash.
Yeah.
And like he's in this amber disguise, like, and he's running around now, like, having been infused with dragon blood, and like, I love this. I was so happy to see the Fool like up and at him and energized and kind of like back to the old hijinks of like doing
Yep.
all this stuff. And like going into Kelsingra and stirring up the dragons, and like I loved this. I was so happy that like the Fool's misery of like being just almost like physically incapacitated was done, because that was so painful. But that was great. I knew the Fool was good. Like Fitz was so dense yet again to like just think like the Fool's not gonna try to go out on his own. Like the Fool made it very clear that this is the only thing that he really like cares about doing at this moment, and he's not gonna be stopped. So, oh yeah, Motley like stowing away.
Yeah,
What?
somehow.
So great, so
Um,
great. Uh,
Speaking of, this is what I wanted to talk about earlier. When they're in Kelsingra and General Rapskull is really mad at
yeah,
one of the ladies of the group for being a thief. So this is what I was concerned about, because in in Kelsingra culture, especially because of their connection with dragons, um, it's like heavily frowned upon to
Yeah.
consume dragon blood without like a dragon choosing you to change you. And so um when General Rapskull was like, there's a thief, I was really concerned that they were gonna be like overly offended when they realized, and it almost kind of happened. They were like, how did you start changing? And the fool lied, and uh he said,
Yeah.
Tintaglia started to change him years ago. Well, none of them know yet that he drank dragon's blood that was
And and
purchased.
what and what blood is that? It's like Chade intercepted it from on the way to the Duke of Chelsea. Is it maybe that scene? I think it was in the
Selden's
Rain Wilds
blood?
where no real dragon blood. Where like Tintaglia and Icefire were like they came down to a clearing and they were attacked by a bunch of Chalcedeans and they were like wounded and injured. Do you think it could be
Oh,
like blood from one of them that they got after wounding them?
I don't
Like
know.
I don't know,
I don't know
I
if
don't
we're
know what because
supposed
like
to
the
know.
Chalcedeans were not like successful in getting any dragon blood from any of the dragons like in on the way to Kelsingra. So like I was trying to figure out like where Jade got that from, and that might come into play. Like if it was a particular dragon that the fool drank that from, and now is going to be bonded, just like Cedric was closer to his dragon that he drank the blood of. But yeah, that's going to be interesting. Also, how awful is Rapskull now? Like he turned into a true a-hole,
And they all
and
just kind of deal with it. They're like, oh yeah, he's kind of a butthead. Like, just it is what it is. I don't know why he's
and
like that.
and oh, Darius said she hasn't thought of what I was just thinking about with like whose dragon blood that was. Um, pay attention next time. Yeah. Man, it was fun to be back in Kelsingra. That like to meet because we left off where baby Ephraim was saved, but then it's like happy ending there, and then to see like oh he's not doing too well. I was like Hobbs just being really brutal to us again, and then um, Fitz healing him like great moment, loved that. But then it was like overwhelming once all the keepers came in and were wanted to be healed. Like I was really scared and like overwhelmed for Fitz in that moment. I'm like, they're
Yeah.
like, it's like a riot here, and Fitz might be expending himself too much. But I was also like, at the same time, I was like, yes, heal them, heal like the keepers' kids, like Thymara showed up there, like
Oh, that
I'm
was
like, yeah, help,
awesome. Yeah.
like help them, like do as much as you can, Fitz, but also like people stay back, like give him some space. Um, yeah, Rapskull's not fully himself from before,
I
like
forgot
getting
about
taken
that.
over. Yeah, yeah. Um,
Um, Malta's connection to Amber with the fingerprint on her neck. Um,
oh yeah, she didn't even know what that was until the fool
yeah.
explained it. Ah, yeah.
So a lot of cool stuff happens in Kelsingra. Um, but I guess so. Let me think here. They all go to Kelsingra, their fits. I guess this kind of leads us towards the end, right? I mean, um, they're, I guess, well, first of all, it's cool to see Kelsingra, what it's developed into. Just kind of the wonder of the group as they are exploring the city, and seeing like the magic of Kelsingra. I think that still to an extent the world is not aware of how developed Kelsingra is. And Fitz is surprised that there's not a lot of people in Kelsingra. But I think also what maybe he's not thinking about particularly is that they have dragons to help them defend the city, so they don't need to like overpopulate and like build an army. I don't know. Kelsinger is a fascinating place, and it made the Rain
Yeah,
Wilds experience a lot better for me.
we also get a hints that like there's political troubles with the dragons. Like one dragon is stealing livestock from like buckkeep farmers, and so like yeah, I love what Hobbs is doing, just like with hints that as they're expanding or as the dragons are growing, and this is having wide-ranging consequences. But yeah, the coming back to Kelsinger is great. I love that series overlap going on there.
This is a question for Derry.
Oh, okay.
Derry, can you confirm or deny?
Also, this ends. I never doubted. First of all, I knew that B was gonna come out of the skill pillar somewhere. Like I was not thinking that she was dead, but I thought that like she might come out and the servants might not have.
Oh,
but then
yeah.
at the end, like she comes out and the servants are right there with the horrible Dwalia, and I was like, oh dang, like they're right on her tail. Like, come on. She's still in grave danger and grave peril. Man, I hope they do not make it back to the servants island, but I think that's where this is going. Like they set up a lot in this book about like the servants island, and like I'd be surprised if we didn't end up going there. But it's horrifying, like in confronting like the higher ups, because we have not seen who the higher ups are. We've only seen some, and Dwalia is scary enough as like this mid-level cult functionary.
Yeah, and the fool kind of laid out that she doesn't really have any power. She just does what the people with the real power tell her to do. So,
oh my god, so they're going to be horrifying. I feel like we're going to meet them.
This last scene was great with B exiting and Night Eyes kind of guiding her while she's delirious from being in the skill pillar, and Wolf Father is like giving her that instinct that Fitz was so used to living with for so long. Like, get up, get on your legs. Like, you need to get out of here. Like, do not stay here. Like, you just run. I don't even care if you just run into the woods. Like, you need to get away from these people. What an ending. What an ending. I have no idea, Ben, where this is going to go. Like, literally. Again. Hobbs so good at that. For Dwalia to be a lackey is scary in itself. Yeah, yeah.
Ooh, any particular events, meetings? Well, I do want something. I thought about this. I know that the island is like far away and will involve maybe some sea travel. And so I would love for Fitz and the Fool to meet up with some of our live ship buddies and to, be taken on this quest with, dare we say, the Paragon or the Vivacia, and for them to like
cool.
Be involved in helping them. Maybe some of the dragons getting involved. I don't know. Like, I
don't know yet, Matt.
Yeah.
Soon.
I'm scared because like people say like things get emotional in Assassin's Fate. Like, haven't we already gotten emotional throughout this series? Like, what else could Fitz is like a retrospective narrator, so I've always felt like that he was going to survive the series, but maybe not. Maybe there's a device.
One thing I definitely want to see happen before the series ends is for Fitz and Shade to get like a moment of closure, because obviously we didn't really touch on this much, but
Shade is fading.
Like, Shade is like, I mean, like, probably the most devastating thing in the world would be for Fitz to survive this whole thing and get back, and Shade is just like gone, like mentally gone, too far to the point where Fitz can like, because I feel like Shade has been such an important person in Fitz's life that they need that moment.
It was so great. Like the moments they had in this where like people think Chade is just completely out of it, and then Fitz is alone with him, and Chade is like either he's more lucid in some of those moments, or he's like putting on a little bit of an act for the others, where like that he's still with it with Fitz, and like that was. And then to see when Shine comes back though, and he's like so relieved and like able to spend some time with Shine and like recognize that like she didn't have the greatest upbringing, and like he's trying to help her develop into a better person. Like I was at least happy that Shine got away. Like that was a great moment with B, like tapping into her like future sight in that moment where she's getting sucked into the skill pillar, but she realizes that if she like bites the Chalcedonian, that like he'll release Shun, and like
so smart.
That was great that like at least Shine could get away and that they found Shine. Love that also like I didn't fully understand what was going on with the Chalcedonian that had a crush on Shine. Like cause he came and he was acting like very genuine of like, I'm gonna help you too. And I'm like, do I trust him? Like he seemed to be nice. And then he just leads them right back to the servants because he was under the skill compulsion of Vindelayer. It's like, oh, I should have seen that coming, Hub. But let's see, anything else I want to see? Like it's so painful for Fitz and B to be apart. Like I want to see them have more time together. Like I want to see Fitz rescue B. I want to see them have more time together. Cause like the part we got in Fool's Assassin where they were like on the same team together and like growing together, like that was so happy to experience.
Nice,
so
TV.
I'd like to get more time with Fitz and B, but I don't.
The thing that I want to see the most.
The
thing that I want to see the most is the Fool get to actually have a sit down conversation with B, and maybe have Fitz even be there too. I think that's
the Fool could.
That's the thing I'm anticipating the most.
Ooh, yeah. Their 1 second, or their 10 seconds that they had of connection was so special for both of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great one. That's a great one, Colin. Zamar's just coming in at the last moment.
Yeah, we're about to wrap up here, but how are you? Thanks for stopping in. Yeah, I think we're about ready to. Are you ready to get to the last book pretty soon here?
I am, because I was ready to go right in when I finished this, and so luckily there was this like preview chapter at the end where I'm like, okay, let me see what happens like right after. And wait a sec, what did I read in this preview chapter? Did I think it was part of
I don't know.
Fool's Quest? Like they're in Kelsingra. Man,
does it not say what it was?
No, they're all like chatting in Kelsingra.
Okay.
Oh, but no, I'm ready. I'm ready to, I think, dive back in.
All right.
Because I'm in such suspense. Do you feel like you need to leave more time between the books?
No. I mean, I'm down if you want to wait a little bit, but I'm also kind of ready to get rolling on it if you are. Are you do you want to leave some time? Or do you want to
not particularly? I love binging.
Ben's ready to go.
Binging. Yeah.
Okay. The only reason that I would want to wait is because I don't want the series to end. Like I want to read it, but I don't want the series to end.
Apparently she's working on sequel stuff, so it's not, you don't have to view this as the end.
Okay. Well, that helps a little bit. Yeah. But yeah, I think we covered just about everything. I do kind of have to go soon. I have some people coming over for lunch in a little bit. But any glaring thing that you remember that we didn't touch on?
No, I think
any
just
final thoughts?
another magnificent entry into the series. So powerful. And yeah, just great. what a fantastic middle book. I'm so happy that this last trilogy is working for us, because if a series tails off towards the end, like that's a big downer. If like, you know, it doesn't end strong for you, and I've had a couple series like that, but so this is great. I think we're both fully into it, and I'm ready to experience that final chapter.
Well, I want to thank you, Ben, for coming on the channel again, and I want to thank everybody who, I can't believe we had like almost 8 or 9 people constantly in here for the 15th book in a series. You guys in the chat are awesome, and you make this so much more fun. So we will keep you abreast of when we finish this. The last discussion is going to be on Ben's channel, so he gets to ring the final bell over on Books with Bengus Khan. But hopefully all you guys will be there for that, and we can't wait to chat with you there. So thank you so much for being here, Ben, and everybody in the chat. And again, I hope you guys are all enjoying what you're currently reading, and thanks for stopping in and watching on this Sunday morning. See you later, guys.